Hello, N4HNH here with the Yaesu FTdx5000, and this is the MP variant that I purchased in the fall of 2019. If you've been watching my channel for the past 2 or 3 years, then you're very familiar with this particular radio. And yes, okay, I'll just go ahead and say, I've said it many times, I've even mentioned it in comments, that it is still my all-time favorite HF transceiver. Really just love working with this radio. It's just so much fun. And I put it up against anything today as far as the receiver is concerned. I've done that, as a matter of fact, if you've seen some of those videos where I put it up against the FTdx10, and they're neck to neck. You know, now that is when I'm using all of the capabilities that this radio has versus all of the capabilities that the FTdx10 has, including using the optional 300 hertz roofing filter in the FTdx10 for receive. And the MP variant of the FTdx5000 also came with a 300 hertz roofing filter. But that's not what the video is about. I want to talk to you about the OLEDs. That was a reservation of mine. I kept coming back, you know, during the 8 months that I was testing other radios. Many of you know I did not walk in to buy a Yaesu. I had gone 20 years without replacing my HF base station, and I walked into our local ham shop here. Happens to be a ham radio outlet, and they've got a bench set up back there where you can try out the different radios with a couple of different antenna choices. And that ended up being an 8-month process for me, going in there every 3 or 4 weeks and sitting there for about 3 hours and just A-Bing the radios all against one another. So I chose this one. And, you know, even after waiting on the FTdx5000D and MP to come out, and I ultimately did put it up against those as well. And, you know, for various reasons that I've talked about on the channel before, I walked out with the FTdx5000MP, knowing that it had a history of OLED failures. So I'm talking about the display units here. So I want to talk to you about that, because they do have a limited lifespan. Now, I've seen various numbers tossed around, 30,000 hours, various things like that. But what I want you to know is, if you run the brightness always up, you're definitely going to limit the number of hours those things will operate. And I'm gonna do a manual override here and force mine to full brightness. There's a button here, top left, right here, that forces it to maximum brightness no matter how you have the menus set. Now I'm going to turn that back off again so you can see the difference. So do yourself a favor. Now I've got extra lights on in the shack right now so you can see the buttons, but I don't normally run with those extra lights. I have one light that I'll have on. Let me turn off some of this so you can just understand a little bit. That's a little bit more realistic to the amount of light I have when I'm operating. As a matter of fact, I may not even have that much. Let me show you this. So that's actually a more typical, and you'll see my little keyboard here. I've got a light, it's a blue hue to it. You can probably see that against the wall now. Over here on my right, it's a lamp, and I got it at Home Depot. It's a color changing lamp that looks like really it looks like an outdoor like spotlight, and I have that set to its blue color, and for some reason it highlights these keys on my keyboard here, this little wireless keyboard. But you might, if you do see the wire there, let me turn the lights back on. You do see a wire there, but that's a charging cable. So the issue with the OLEDs, their lifespan. Here's what I do to maximize the lifespan, and you know, so far so good. I've had the radio now, well, 3 years. So I'm going to go into the menu, the button here to the bottom right of the VFO, the main VFO that is, and then I'll rotate through the menus here. And I usually leave mine up there around 104 so I can change my transmit bandwidth. Let me show you that in a minute. Little bonus on this video. So if I'm working DX, I may bump that up to 300 to 2700 or even 400 to 2600 just to bust a pile up. I did do that earlier today. If not there, I may leave it on up here where contour is, contour width and level, I might leave it on one of those if I'm pulling out weak SSB signals. But the brightness settings are after the AGC timing. There you're going to see, so that after 7, okay, 008. Let me zoom in. Yeah, let me do that for you there. So menu 008, dim meter. Now that's going to set the brightness of the S meter. So let me pan over there a minute. Now with these lights on, let me turn one of them off. All right. So I'm going, right now I've got the dim set on 3. You can see there's 6, and it goes all the way up to 15. So I'm running it at 3. Again, just to save a little bit on LEDs, even for the meter there. So now let's go up a menu selection. Dim the VFD. That's this area here. I've got it set on 3. There's 6, 7, 8, and then of course it'll go to 15 as well. But I'm going to leave it on 3. And now the next is, let me pan over a little bit more there. Dim OEL. That's the OL. That's these right here. They're set on 3. There's 2. There's 1. And they'll go up to 15. So again, I'm running them on 3. The lower the level you can tolerate, the longer life you'll get out of these limited lifespan OLEDs here. Okay, now that was menu 010. Let's go up again. This is the ELCD. So let me show you what that is. Look up here at the, and this is menu number 11, the SM5000 that you see sitting up here that's I'm using here as a spectrum scope, and it's also got the stereo speakers left and right and a phase reversal, which I've covered in other videos. It sounds really good. That's one of the greatest things about this radio is when you team it up with this SM5000. If you're using dual receive, you hear receiver A out of the left, you hear receiver B out of the right. If you're not doing dual receive, you can put it in phase reversal, and what that does is it simulates surround sound. It's pretty cool. So that brightness is covered by menu 011. So watch it. I've got it set on 5. And you know, I've read reports where and it'll go all the way, you know, look at that. that's 0. Barely see it. But I've been running it on 5. I'm gonna put it on 4. I'm seeing that okay. So I've read reports also, of that failing, and let's face it, this is a 2009 design. The radio was introduced in 2010, and it was discontinued in 2020. I'm sorry, wait a minute, 2021, I believe it was. Yes, 2021. So I would expect that we're not going to have a lot of spare parts available for a while. I mean, I know a Yaesu rep told me that they try to time the discontinuation of a rig based upon how many years they think they'll be able to maintain spare parts. But from what I've been reading on some social media chatter, it's getting difficult to find the replacement display units. So that's why I wanted to put this out there. And if you're running your displays at full brightness, you're just limiting their life. And now, yes, okay, the backup plan would be to use something like Win4 Yaesu, so that you're controlling all of this with the computer. Let me pan up to my logging program here and show you how I do it. If I want to control the radio, I've got another video about this, but if I want to control the radio, that's Ham Radio Deluxe with the color scheme I came up with. A lot of tweaking, but I like that color scheme. It's easier for me to see. I don't have the greatest eyesight. So what you don't know is that behind it, if you see over here, let me move that out of the way. That's the control software for my Elecraft amplifier. So here we are. I'll get off of there. So here we are. There's the DX cluster. There's my log. There's Over here is the propagation map, gray line map, the clock, latest DX spots and where they are in the spectrum. And then across the bottom here are the controls, RF gain, AF gain, AGC, all this sort of stuff, RF power, mic gain. And now, if I click here, what you don't know is that hidden behind all that is rig control. So up here, there's the frequency. And, you know, you can move that by clicking on it and using your mouse. And so you can, of course, control a rig using Ham Radio Deluxe here, or Win4 Yaesu, in case you do reach a point where those displays burn out. But extend the life of the displays. Let me move back down here. You know, by dimming them a little bit. You know, so I operate in low light, just enough that I can see, and that blue light accentuates my keyboard, which helps out. And then just run these as low as you can tolerate so you can extend the life of your display. And back to what I showed you at the beginning, this button here, top left, no matter how you have the displays, let me go ahead and hit exit out of the menu here. No matter how you have the menus set for brightness, this will override that and put everything to maximum brightness. So I'm just encouraging you, don't run maximum brightness on your FTdx5000, or be prepared to, at some point, you're going to have to replace those sooner rather than later, those OLEDs. Okay, well, I hope this tip helped you. I hope you found it helpful and informative. I want to thank the Patreon support team who make these videos possible. Without them, my channel would have to cease. I would not be able to justify the time and expense to do this. So thank a Patreon, if you would, in a comment, because the Patreon support team are vital to the survival of this channel. And why is that? Because I don't want to take advertising dollars from any of the manufacturers that make these radios and antennas. Okay, YouTube runs ads, but I don't have control over that. But I don't want to be in a situation where I can't tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly about any piece of gear that I'm reviewing or talking about or even doing a tutorial on. Nothing is perfect. Every piece of gear we buy out there, there's going to be some flaw. It's, you know, it's designed and built by humans. This rig here, I've said it before, this is the nearest to perfect of a transceiver that I've ever played with, and I've played with many. Admittedly, not every radio that's ever been built, but this is my favorite thus far, after being an amateur operator for 40 years. So it has little flaws too, no kidding. I've called Yaesu and pointed out a couple of them, and granted, the radio's old enough at this point, they're not going to do anything about it. But you know, they're not anything, they're not showstoppers, okay? So just little bitty nitpicky flaws, couple of them really. So it's very, very near perfect. The FTdx10, you know, another radio that is phenomenal. Yeah, it's got little idiosyncrasies in it, some things that perhaps could be fixed with a firmware update if Yaesu would ever get around to doing it. But again, even as is, and mine's still running older firmware. I'm running the firmware that was put out when mine was made, I guess, or at least purchased in March of 2021. So it's firmware VO104. Not a perfect radio. Getting really, really close, though. And so, I mean, the good news is you live in an era where a lot of the radios are good, and they've all got a little idiosyncrasy here and there. But that's okay. You can still have fun with them, and it really kind of depends on operating style. For me, I like the knobs. That was the ergonomics of this, the layout of it. That was one of the reasons that I ultimately chose the FTdx5000MP. So if you own one, you know, I encourage you to run that brightness down at a lower level that you can tolerate. Maybe do the mood lighting if you want to, because it's easier to see things if your shack environment is a little bit dim, more dim. Okay, again, hopefully you found this tip helpful and informative. Shout out to that Patreon team who make these videos possible for me to bring them to you without any of these manufacturers running ads or influencing what I can say. So That is much appreciated. If you want to join that Patreon team, go to www.patreon.com/N4HNH, and I'll put that here on the display. And you can be a part of that team and help me continue to be able to bring these types of videos to you. And if you would, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you do subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell and you'll be notified when I upload a new video. And I usually upload 2 a week, sometimes more if there's news to share. So that would be much appreciated. And finally, if you would, please share the link to this video on social media, email, text message, or phone a friend. Hey, thanks again for watching, and 73 from N4HNH.